Good afternoon. Oh, isn't it nice to have not a clear board, but something else on. It gets a little bit stale after a while with the same board again, and you go back to it again from a different angle. But now something new, something that I have just learned as well. Somebody said to me, it's good because all the hate that I used to get, I had to push through that years ago. The hate, yeah, you wanker. But now it's more positive. People are going, hang on a minute. Somebody said, I believe you. And we were talking about, I wasn't. He was talking about the speed of light. And he goes, I believe you. And I said to him, it's not about you believing me. I'm not doing any of this for people to believe me, right? What I'm doing it for is for people to see things for what they are and to start thinking for themselves, where they're in a position that they don't have to believe anybody else because they can work shit out on their own. That is all my motivation, for people to be able to look at things and work the stuff out for themselves without having to rely on people. There's so much out there, right, that people don't need anybody else to tell them how it works or what's happening or what to expect or why that happened. It's like, hello? So don't believe me, don't follow me because you want to believe me in what I say. Follow me because you're starting to understand what I say, right? I'm doing this for people to understand. I'm not doing it for people to memorize for an exam. There's no exam at the end of it, and everybody's got little cheat sheets, but don't understand what I'm talking about. You'd be just going from believing somebody's horseradish to believing somebody's accurate truths, the way things are. But it would be irrelevant if you didn't actually understand what I'm saying. So that is the mission. Like during the solar eclipse, and this one, oh, sexy, or what? I just found this out. A solar eclipse, when the sun is directly behind the moon, as seen from the sweet spot on planet Earth. It's funny how people can come up with finite light, but the amount of, not garbage, the amount of different versions I've heard to try and justify that the sun is directly behind the moon during a solar eclipse. If photons are taking 8 minutes and 20 seconds to get here, the sun cannot be directly behind the moon, because when the photons left Earth, Earth carried on turning for 8 minutes and 20 seconds as those Mickey Mouse photons traveled. And at the end of the 8 minutes and 20 seconds, planet Earth has turned 2.08 degrees on its axis. So the photons that are hitting the moon and casting the shadow have been traveling for 8 minutes and 20 seconds. In that time, planet Earth has moved out of the way. Not planet Earth, the sweet spot that people find themselves in has moved out of the way. So why is the sun still directly behind the moon? It's obvious that it's absolute light. There is no doubt. There is no other logical explanation. So it's not that I want people to believe me. I want people to look at these things and go, hang on, bang, bang. Sun, moon, shadow, what delay? That's all this is about. So, but thank you for the good reviews. Even my critics are enjoying it. This one, well, if there has been one thing that has bugged me as far back as I can remember, right? The first time I ever saw a solar eclipse, probably, I thought, because it's predicted, I thought, how? How does anyone predict that, right? Because people may go, oh yeah, just a couple of equations, Kepler worked out the planetary motions, elliptical orbits, etc. Rubbish. No, he didn't, right? It's too complex. It's way too complex. But predicting a solar eclipse, right? Knowing that the moon it goes up and then back down at the equator, and even though it's only 3 of us and we're spinning anti-clockwise, and it's only the sun and the moon, to predict a solar eclipse, right, as accurately as they do, has always been a blind spot for me, because I could not work out how, even though they come up with whatever they come up with, it's claiming knowledge that cannot be known. That's what I would have said. But they did it again and again, and it's like, well, fuck. They obviously have some kind of knowledge. But this last week, when I was looking for Herodotus, and believe you me, I've read up on solar eclipses. I know exactly what's happening, why it happens, yada, yada, yada. But the predictions. So I was looking up Herodotus, right? And in it, it goes, Greek historian, eclipse, 585 BC, predicted by book 3, 134. So guess what I did? I went for book 3, 134. Not thinking about the eclipse, but Herodotus. I'm thinking, oh, obviously Herodotus would have predicted an eclipse as well. He's done everything else, hasn't he? So why wouldn't he predict an eclipse? And it said, predictions of eclipses go. Where's my glasses? It's better. I can see without them, but you know. Right, here we go. Predictions of eclipses go back to antiquity. Perhaps the most famous of these early predictions was that of Thales, a philosopher of Miletus, who died in the year 546 BC. The Greek historian Herodotus, now that is why I came to this, right, has given the following dramatic account of the prediction. I read this out. There was war between the Lydians and the Medes. In an encounter which happened in the 6th year of the war, it chanced that the day was turned into night. Thales of Miletus had foretold this loss of daylight to the Ionians. Miletus was in the ancient district of Ionia, fixing it within the year in which the change did indeed happen. So when the Lydians and Medes saw the day turn to night, they ceased from fighting, and both were the more zealous to make peace. This eclipse has been identified after careful research with the one that took place on May the 28th, 585 BC, right? So I read that, and then it said, next thing down, Herodotus is finished with, and it went, the discovery that eclipses occur in series. So I read. Now I read up on these things, and I cannot believe, I probably would have read this, but it's worded in such a way that I wasn't looking for how they predict, if you know what I mean. So I missed it. And you look online, well, it's called a Saros, but they still make it sound like, oh, mathematical. It's not easy, you know, a few equations and knowledge and no. Rubbish. This, a weight off of my shoulders, because it means that they didn't have this magical knowledge passed down to them, right? The way they make it out, the way that they predict these eclipses, I wonder how many people have heard this, right? It makes my heart sing. The discovery that eclipses occur in series, right? Thales' prediction was not really so surprising as it might appear, though it greatly impressed his contemporaries. Many years before his time, Chaldean astronomers had made a remarkable discovery, one of the most memorable achievements of ancient astronomy. And I have to agree that this is very, very good, right? They had noted that eclipses of the sun and moon occur in series, and that a definite period of time elapses between one eclipse of a series and the following eclipse, right? By calculating the time that had passed since the last solar eclipse in a series of this sort, Thales had no difficulty in predicting the time when the next eclipse of the series would take place. I was like, what the? Seriously? The interval between an eclipse of the sun or moon and the next one in a given series is called a saros, right? So, a saros is 18 years, 11 days and 8 hours, or 11 and 1/3 of a day. Day, not hours, of a day. Or, yeah, 8 hours. If there is, because it's 18 years, you know, there's a leap year every 4 years. So if the very first Saros, right, is in the first year, then you have 5, because you'd have one at 1, and then what would it be? You have 1, and then the 5, and then the 1, plus 4 is 5, plus 4 is 9, plus 4 is 13, plus 4 is 17. So you'd have 5 leap years in that 18 years instead of 4. If that was the case, you'd have 10 days and 1/3, or 10 days and 8 hours. So when you're looking at a solar eclipse, right, you've got 2. Daisy the cow's over the moon, because she doesn't like it when I get too caught up in the pyramids. Oh, it's there and there. So obviously I couldn't really say no, could I? So I went, come on, Daisy. I actually threw a couple extra in for her. I want to keep the cow happy. Daisy the cow, Daisy the cow, Daisy the cow. She loves it. Loads of moons, loads of Daisy the cows. Now what happens? So you find yourself, if you notice, there's one there and there's a double there. So it's not a double, it's just that one time it will come round and it won't be a full solar eclipse, because the moon will be either below the equator line or above it. So as the moon passes in front of the sun, it misses. So we get no shadow, but it goes round again, da 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 da. And boom, here we go. So we find ourselves the perfect solar eclipse. But what they say is the first one of a series, when it happens, it's not a full solar eclipse. It's a partial solar eclipse. But that would be the beginning of a series, right? So you have a partial solar eclipse here. Everybody's like, oh wow, solar eclipse, partial. 18 years, 11 days and 8 hours later, we're looking at 18 years. It will happen again. Poof! But the next time, the partial will have gone to maybe half of the moon, like more than partial. And then 18 years, 11 days and 8 hours, bang, in the same place. It will happen again. But this time, it might be 3/4 of the sun covered by the moon. 18 years later and 11 days and 8 hours, bang, the full solar eclipse of the sun. Bang. And then 18 years and it will happen again, but it will be mostly covered up, but it will just, I'm not sure what it's called, it will just miss. So there'll still be a little sliver of the sun. And then 18 years in that, there'll be another eclipse, but more of the sun is visible until finally the moon just misses. But by then, it will be happening somewhere else, because you can get a solar eclipse in the US one year, and in the same year, because of the way it's happening, you could get another solar eclipse somewhere else. So right there, you have 2 series going at the same time, right? And poof, poof. Because it's elliptical orbit and above and below the equator, it takes that long for them to come around again. So when they tell you that it's mathematical genius equations and calculus and this and supercomputers, and thanks to Kepler or Kepi, and thanks to Huygens for some reason for working out the speed of light, thanks to Galileo for working out the pendulum, yada 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 yada, it's BS. It's already done. Boom, there is a forecast of the next 1,000 years. Actually, I shouldn't have thrown that, because these things, these Saros things, can last up to 1,000 years. A series, right? Can last up to 1,000 years. I just thought it was freaking awesome, because now I know that one blind spot where I thought, maybe they are clever. They're not. They're not. They're claiming knowledge that cannot be known and hanging on to other people's coattails. It's already worked out, right? So it's like an almanac that they didn't work out. I guarantee you, if you took that almanac away from them right now and muddled everything up, muddled the moon up, same distance, same, but different freaking times, and you said, right, when there was a solar eclipse, right, and they had no knowledge, and boom, they could watch 2, 3, 4, 10 years worth, 15 years worth, they would not be able to predict anything, but they make it out, fly, that they have all of this incredible knowledge, don't they? Porcupines, honestly. So this made my heart really sing. Each Saros is 18 years to the, hang on, I got that. A given series of solar eclipses may run through as many as 70 Saroses and may last for 1,250 years. So we know exactly where they're going to be. Next time you see a solar eclipse somewhere, all you have to do is go right in 18 years, 11 days and 24 hours. It's going to happen here. But if there are 4 leap years, because the first one of those eclipses happened when it was a leap year, you'll get 5, then you take 1 hour off. No, 1 day off, 24 hours, because it's a leap. They throw that extra day in, don't they? I just thought it was fascinating. There are 48 or 49 Saroses in the average series of lunar eclipses, and the lapse of time is somewhat under 900 years. There are many series of eclipses, both solar and lunar, running their course at the same time. If an eclipse in series A, so we could say this one, if an eclipse in series A, right, if an eclipse in series A takes place, say in the first week of May 1960, so first week of May in 1960, right, the next one, May 1960, the following eclipse of the series will be in May 1978. Next will be in May 1978. 18 years later. Right? So say I'm done. It's all done. So next time they fill your heads with, oh, we're so clever, we can predict eclipses and stuff. You know, they're telling porkies. Again, in the case of another series, which we shall call Series B, one eclipse may occur, say, in the last week of June 1961. So last week June, last week in June 1961. And then last week of July. The next one will take place in, come on, somebody, show me that you've been listening. Come on, now's the time. Get a badge. I'll send a badge out. When is the next one? We have June 1961. 18 years, 11 days and 8 hours. So it would be, come on, chop chop. Of course, in July 1961, 71, 79. That's it. That is how they know. So it's not about calculus and trigonometry and working out other random horseradish. It's basically as simple as a calendar. Somebody else has already worked it out. Somebody else worked it out yonks ago. And instead of them telling us, they've kept it a bit of knowledge to themselves to make themselves look un poquito grande. So, that was it. It really, yeah. It's awesome. So that's one of the big mysteries for me, done and dusted. So, claiming knowledge that cannot be known. Naughty, naughty. You know who you are, Nafa and others. All right, I'm going to call that. I'll come back with some more stuff, something. Egyptians building the pyramids, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You need to let that go straight away. Anybody who has, I'm not going to say it, anybody, yes I will, anybody who has a certain way of thinking, anybody who has a certain way of thinking and who uses logic and common sense to work things out and knows what a fact is, will understand that when you have 25,000 people, right, and you have 2.3 million 2.5 ton stones, and you need to quarry those stones first of all. First of all, you need to quarry the stones, right, with copper hand tools. Then you know that from here, if they actually manage to get past one stone, which they wouldn't, not anytime soon, if they manage, they'd all be lined up, ready to take the weight of 92 2.5 ton stones each. 92 2.5 ton stones for each of the 25,000 Egyptians. Now, anybody who uses logic, understands logistics, a little bit of common sense, you wouldn't actually need too much, I don't think, to work this out. Just a basic, one of the cheap deals, you know, the basic common sense package should be enough to understand that no, Egyptians, you didn't. And that is only the basic building blocks of 2.5 tons, right? Then you have all of the rest of the heavy paraphernalia, the rock paraphernalia. Oh, it just did not happen. It just did not happen. What else needs to, why can people not see that no amount of Egyptians will carve a 2.5 ton stone out of a sandstone rock faced wall with copper hand tools? It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Just because in 1911 in Egypt somebody managed to tunnel through 5 foot of granite doesn't mean it happened, Mr. Petrie, Mr. Savage Petrie, does it? So that's another one. And then, of course, we have the solar eclipse. It would be rude not to. We have a solar eclipse. The sun, its light and the sweet spot on planet Earth is a direct line. It doesn't look like it's straight. That's because it's not straight. This was spontaneous, but people in that sweet spot right there are looking straight up with the moon smack bang in front of the sun, blocking the sun out like this. So now we're looking up at the moon. So the moon is in front of the sun, right? And around the moon, you have the sun's corona. Sun's corona, what they're seeing, they're actually seeing the light source that is radiating the photons that are casting the moon's shadow onto Earth. How can they be seeing this, right? And they're seeing it here because they see the sun's corona around the moon. So they are seeing the sun at the same time as being in a shadow where photons have been traveling for 8 minutes and 20 seconds, because 150 million kilometers divided by 299,792 kilometers per second gives us 500 seconds, and that is 8 minutes and 20 seconds. In that 8 minutes and 20 seconds, planet Earth would have turned by 2.08 degrees anti-clockwise. Knowing this, how is it possible that the sun is still directly behind the moon? Because when the photons that are casting the shadow onto the sweet spot that people are looking at the sun from, planet Earth turned. So the sun cannot be there. The only explanation, and it is common sense, logic, and everything else, it's a rational thought process. The only reason the sun is directly behind the moon, as seen from the sweet spot on planet Earth, is because there is no delay whatsoever. No delay whatsoever. You go out, you put a stick up against the sun, bang, the shadow that you see is cast with absolute light from the sun. There is no delay. There is no other explanation for it. It doesn't matter how much you jump up and down. Absolute light, no delay. Stars as well. The Big Bang is wrong, the speed of light is wrong, gravitational waves are wrong, the theories about black holes are obviously wrong because they use 299792458 meters per second. This is a fact. So, I don't want people to believe me. I want people to start understanding that the moon and the sun in the sky above us, it's impossible to mistake it for anything else. And once you cross that hurdle, you jump over that hurdle, you'll start to realize that boom, boom, other things will open up. Man-made climate change, impossible. How can people claim that? Pyramids, no way the Egyptians. Fact, fact, fact. Too heavy, too many stones, not enough people. Even if there was 2.3 million people, 2,300,000 Egyptians to move 2,300,000 2.5 ton stones. That's one per stone, one Egyptian per stone. Stand to everybody, all the Egyptians behind their stone. Right, well, what are we going to do now? All right, half of you lot, double up. So now all of a sudden you have 2 people behind half of the stones. Not going to work. And then you can do it again. 4 people behind just a quarter of the stones. And you can do it again and again and again. You could get to 20 people aren't going to budge a 2.5 ton stone. It did not happen. And nor did freaking Savage tunneling through 5 feet of granite. 'Tis an absurdity. All right, happy Sunday, folks. I hope people understood this. I thought it was fascinating. How did I not know this? Of course they don't know how to predict a solar eclipse. Look at this. What's that look like? It's like one of those weapons, isn't it? One of those. I've had this since the very beginning. Travels with me everywhere. Had to use it back in the day. Been around the block a couple of times. Right. And one other thing. Those Spanish encyclopedias, right? I was going through them. Look what I found. José Magariños y señora, me parece. Calle 5, número 1050. 7107. Santa Teresita, Buenos Aires. Delmira y hija de no sé qué es, gallinas, algo de gallinas. Piedrabuena, 5365, pero mira la fecha, ¿dónde está la fecha? ¿Dónde está la fecha? Que estaba la fecha, David, o era en la carta. Este es el 1978, el otro era más vieja. Mira. El 1 de septiembre 1958. Ay. Qué cosa, ¿eh? ¿Qué hago con esto? Pero si alguien los conoce, pues aquí están las cartas. Blancacio Juan B. Alberdi, 2947, capital, 1406. History. These books, right? I wanted to say this and just jog in my memory. Without these books, do you know how much knowledge I would never have known about that eclipse? I would have gone until the next time I come around again and do it again. But this time I got it. Would have gone thinking, how the fuck did they do that? How did they predict the eclipses? But now, these books are so important because right now, you Google how do they predict the solar eclipse. Google it, I order you to. If you read, I read the first 5 or 6 to, well, half of them. Oh yeah, math, it's really not that easy, no. A couple of the other ones go about the Saros, but they make it sound like there's a lot of math involved. None of them say, easy to predict, it's been going on for God knows how many thousands of years, yada, yada, yada. They try to keep this stuff a secret. I used to hate history at school. I used to hate it. I just didn't like history. What was that teacher's name? I can't remember. But it wasn't the teacher, it was just history. I used to think it was pointless. Why are they teaching us this? I hate it. I really did. Let's go down the beach instead. But now I'm realizing that to understand what is happening now, you have to know what happened in the past. Otherwise, it's just so I'll be looking for more encyclopedias. This needs to people. Don't throw these things away. Google. Every time you Google something, you look at the date that it was updated. Look at the date that it was updated. You would never, ever, it just doesn't happen. You would never be able to look. I know I've tried it, but something like a 1961, pick a topic that you wanted, right? Get the relevant book, look at it, see what it says about something, and then Google and see if, how can I find out what were people thinking about such and such in 1961? Forget it. Boop. Everything will be 2024 or 2025. Everything, it's all updated nearly, it looks like daily, some of these things, right? They are changing the history. And without these things, people you don't have these things, how would you ever know? They are rewriting history as you go. They're making it up as they go. Bundaberg Library. I went down there last year and asked just to see what old books. Where's your old book section? You won't find anything in here older than 2 or 3 years. Say what? In a library, there's no books that are over 2 or 3 years old. If you want any information other than what's here, there's computers, you could use Google. Hello. Don't want people to believe me. I want people to start thinking for themselves so that you don't rely on other people. And when people do tell you absurdities, you can work out that it is an absurdity. Then I can go on holiday. All right, peeps, laters. I will come back with some more good stuff. Laters.